And then I say
137.
something like, "Welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Hernandez. Joining you, a co-owned chair. Joining me tonight, he's got a heart out. Well, sorry, he can get a heart out without a prescription. It's Robert Wyatt."
Yeah, I haven't reached that point in my life where I need things to pick it up.
The
Well,
best part is his heart out is from God.
it's
Jesus,
a
Mary
it,
and Joseph.
it's a divine one where it's just like, oh,
Uh-huh.
and he can drink 15 natty ices and get on the freeway and still be safer than a P320. It's Jared Stepp.
Absolutely. Especially with these new cars and their technology. Oh man. They drive themselves. It's wonderful.
So we were talking about yesterday with last week with some guys messing around with the triggers to get the P320 off, and now every YouTuber and their mom is sticking something to take the slack out of the P320 and pressing the top of the slide and making the thing go off.
Did you see the thing that Springer Precision says you can do that with a Glock?
Well, if you on a Glock, you would have to take it out, so it would have to be completely pre-tensioned.
Well, actually, that's a really good point, though, Tommy, because with a Glock, it still has the trigger tab safety. So there's at least the dingus, right? So there's something there to prevent it.
So you can't jam something in there and then have it go back, because nothing would jam, because the trigger blade, as seen on this Apex trigger on this Glock 17, would stop it. So you can't do anything like that. But even if like you took out the slack, it's not as repeatable. It's not as repeatable as something like a Glock would be. I mean, sorry, as the P320.
I just think it's funny that we have people being like, so are all P320s going to be banned from all competitions? Sure. And my question is like, well, technically, in the competition world, a Shadow 2 has killed more people than P320.
It's factually correct.
Yeah, that we know of.
A Shadow 2.
Well, but I mean, if we go down that path, I mean, how many people have been killed by 2011?
We won't allow high points either.
Damn it! Well, there goes my L10 bid.
Yeah, well, no gun can be safer than poor gun handling. That's always the truth of it. But the one thing is that's the one thing with the SIG P320. It's like it doesn't take poor gun handling to set the damn thing off. And like now like they can see this problem. This would obviously be a problem that they would need a recall for. Because if you can do this,
they can't recall this. I remember I was listening to Ian on Forgotten Weapons talk about this, and he made a really good point where he's like, they can't recall this. They basically have to just phase this thing out and say, we're coming out with the P321 or something like that. Because
the P365 is what his suggestion was, is that they become out like a gigantic version of the P365. Which
it was a good argument for what he said, I have to say. I mean, I thought what he said is like, this makes sense, because like even like it's gotten to the point where like people who aren't related, who aren't like as into guns as we are, I'm now getting things from like, my father-in-law. Did you see this? I'm like, okay, when people like that are sending it, you know that they've got a problem.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad once your grandma starts talking to you about Litecoin.
Yeah. They're going to basically have to outsell their way out of this problem. And that is by coming up with some other gun at some great price, like the same thing that they did with the Army, which was sell them an inferior product super cheap. They're going to have to come up with a superior product and kind of sell it at a pretty low price for everyone to kind of like give them the out and then keep moving. Like, so if we see like a Glock 19 size P365 at $450, because SIG can do that. Like, their guns they do not cost a whole lot of money to manufacture.
I mean, when you cut quality and things like that, I mean, it's really cheap to manufacture stuff.
Absolutely.
This is Jared's $1 billion idea. $1 billion. And it's called, I don't have a name for it yet.
Choose 320.
But I want someone to come out with like a Kevlar square that you can put at the bottom of your holster. So it would protect your dick, an appendix carry, and then if you have it in a duty holster, it would protect you from getting shot by your own gun. Just have a Kevlar end cap
They
for all
they
holsters. You
call
install
this
that on all holsters. Safe.
Lee Reloading has the
The
patent on
blast
this.
shield.
It's called the blast shield. It's called the primer tray blast shield. Now, like
That's
Lee,
it.
like
That's what we need, boys.
that's a
I
Lee.
was thinking the cock cap.
Yeah, yeah. It, it has one that reaches
Robert,
completely.
you still want to go to church?
It covers the entire muzzle, but if you want the lightweight one, it comes in a circumcised version that just covers
Yeah.
the leg.
Up my nose.
You could have
Oh,
like
man.
there's
Yeah.
like the Israeli one that actually covers the
Yeah, like covers
the
the side,
European
like
one,
yeah,
the
it's
sides.
yeah, it's
I think
mean,
it's a
admittedly,
great idea.
we
You can
could
make
just like
millions.
start outfitting everybody back in like like plate armor, like the knights of old. I mean,
to
we
protect
could bring
themselves.
that back
We did watch Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves last night because we were
on purpose.
yeah, we were quoting it on accident, and then Paige was
Hey,
sitting
that
there-
one's fun.
Paige was singing Brian Adams song the whole day. Everything I do, and so anyway, we sat there, we like watched it, and I was like, you know what, it's okay. But my observation from this is Kevin Costner, when he has his shirt off in that movie, he looks like a 35-year-old dude who's like decent shape, but like with his shirt off, kind of smooth or whatever, like Indiana
Yeah.
Jones kind of body. And I was just sitting there watching this, and I'm just like, you know what? Maybe if we didn't want our kids making poor pistols like the SIG P320 and offing themselves, maybe we need to get back to the time of where you just had smooth-looking heroes. And so that's what the movement needs to be: smooth-looking heroes. None of these steroided
Yeah,
out
but-
guys.
The problem, though, is if you say we have to return to a '90s era view on masculinity, we also have to return to a '90s era view on femininity. And so you don't get the D cup boobs anymore. You don't get all that wonderful things that life has given us.
I don't know. I think the 80s and 90s still had big-titted women.
Yeah, that's correct. They still. Does anyone
mean,
remember
They didn't exist. They didn't exist before that.
a
Nope.
little show called Baywatch? Is anyone with Carmen Electra on that? And what was the other girl?
For the longest time,
Yasmin
I
Bleeth?
actually thought that.
No.
I thought
I
that
think
thing
those
was
are
called Babe
naturals.
Watch.
No, those were not naturals. Those were not naturals. I saw the magazines. Anyways, I didn't really do a whole lot. Maybe gonna buy one of the new timers, one of the new fancy $300 timers for my practice.
Which
because
one? The commander?
Commanders.
Don't buy
See,
it.
the commanders, I love though.
No.
What do you hate?
I like them. The Slipsa is actually going through. Look, buy it if
The
you want.
delivery.
Well, it's not just the delivery. It's that
It's
they
DiGiorno.
break. Yeah, right. They've been breaking, like a bunch of them breaking, and getting them serviced has been
Impossible.
difficult, impossible, and they're now having this conversation of like, should we just go to the Kestrel timers because yeah, they're more expensive, but they just work. I happen to like the Commander timer. I think it works great. People say like that the fellow who makes it is difficult to deal with. I've not experienced that. Like, not even in the slightest. He's called me on the phone and helped walk me through
experienced
problems.
that.
Yeah, see, I am literally, what do they call it? Anecdotal evidence of one. And so my opinion is probably not valid. But I know Slips has been having trouble with them, and they're just like, we kind of want to get rid of them. So
Well, if
I
they
don't
got
know
the
what to tell
money.
you. Oh, yeah, they got the money. Yeah, I
They
sent
got the money. Why not?
no, they're trying to put cameras on all the bays and everything.
Ooh.
And it was a 2-hour long.
Like that's a little big brothery, but all right.
Yeah.
I can see why you would want to.
Well, that's the one thing. It's like it definitely cameras reduce drama. Like
Well, the question would be: would the cameras be there to watch the shooters, like the stages, or would they be Would the camera be there to watch the shooters or the stages? Like, are they there to make sure stuff doesn't go missing, or stuff doesn't get broken, or if stuff does get broken, who's responsible? Or is it we're going to use these for arbitration. It's a very different angle
Right.
there.
No, these are there to think of it like the shooters are functionally secondary. It's to protect the property more than
That's what
anything.
I would
See who's
Yeah.
figure.
coming and going and making
Insurance
sure of
stuff.
stuff like that. That's really what they want.
Well,
This isn't about, hey, we're gonna catch Jared doing sneaky stuff after dark. Stuff like that, right? It's not that. I mean, it might happen.
yeah. Well, that kind of
But
removes. I have a friend who has a camera in his living room and a camera down in like the family basement room. And
I don't get that.
well,
I
here's the
don't get why people put cameras on the inside of your house.
he has it like kind of like closed circuit, kind of in a way. What the best thing for him, what it is like it prevents his kids from lying about who's fighting with who first, because then they just go watch the replay, and then it turns out the victim.
They get
Often,
John Madden out there.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
and
like
then now Robert came over here. Oh, with the left hook, bro.
yeah, so it's like you walked behind your brother and you smacked him in the back of the head, and then he punched you in the stomach, and he weighs 80 pounds more than you. Huh? Weird. Seems like he
I
earned it.
I hate this world that we live in now, where everything has the potential of being recorded. And I know it's good for law enforcement, so like rock on with your bad self. But I miss the world when you could go out and do stuff and not have to worry about being recorded as a
Oh,
kid doing dumb shit.
I
Oh, I
just
thought we were talking about beating minorities.
Oh,
I just
well, not yet.
Somebody ruined it for everybody.
I just finished reading Blood Meridian. I don't know if you guys have ever read the great American classic by Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian, where a bunch of scalp hunters go into Mexico to collect Indian scalps. And
He's the one who wrote The Road,
The
right?
yeah,
road.
and the road
Yeah.
and No Country for Old Men. And
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, so these guys go out there and they're trying to kill Indians, and like they'll kill any Indian they can.
As you do.
But then they get in fights with other Mexicans, and so they're like, well, they'll shoot up a town of Mexicans, cut off their scalps, and then go sell their scalps back to the governor. And anyways, turns out it goes all wrong for them, because you can't kill the citizens that the governor's trying to protect and then do that. But they're like lying and stealing and kidnapping kids and doing all this other stuff. And you know what happens when it gets a little too hot in a certain area? They go to the next town, and they just, as long as they stay ahead of the bad news, guess what? You're as innocent as you are like before the telegraph. This is like 1849, before the telephone, anything else. All you had to do was be faster or leave no witnesses, and guess what? Clean slate, baby. Clean
All I'm
slate.
That's
saying
how.
is like my father, when he was growing up, he's lived in every single state west of the Mississippi and been in every state east of it. And he growing up, his father was constantly moving from job to job. When in reality, he was just trying to stay ahead of the law. So maybe there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, the whole thing with like John Dillinger back in the day, during that whole time, is all, even though like there was radios and phones, police officers, or they wouldn't communicate with each other, or there wouldn't be radios in the squad cars. So as soon as you kind of got out from the area or shot the squad car that was following you, so they got away, like then you're just free and clear. You're just
Right.
free and clear. So it was nuts time. Nuts time.
What a
Anyways,
what a great time.
what a marvelous time. Shooter's Global Timer is probably the one I'll probably get. That just seems to
If
be.
you it, well, if you do, before you go down that rabbit hole, make sure that whatever the device is, and I think the Shooters Global is really good stuff. Just make sure that it can communicate with practice score and things like that, because that's something eventually you'll want to have
Yep.
that capability.
Yep. Speaking of police officers and fighting crime, or shooting at people whose backs are turned. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? Could be fleeing felon. Jared, tell us what you did.
I did too much this week, and I literally can't close my right hand. I shot so much, like
Oh, good. I thought you
this
said you
hurt.
shot. Okay, I was kind of wondering
It
about something there.
hurts. I can't even like close my hand.
Wow.
I shot about 6,000 rounds this week at a shooting class, and it was about 3,000 pistol and about 3,000 rifle. and it was just it was a wild fucking week. I got
Videos are posted
invited.
on the Telegram account if you guys want to see some of this stuff.
Oh, did you move them over?
I think
Wrong channel.
Sorry, I'll move them over if Jared wants, or if Jared can
Yeah,
post them
well,
there.
we'll see. It's a really weird place because it's called Shaw Shooting. It's in Idaho. They are a
In
sister
Idaho, and
company,
it has the initials of SS.
right? They have a sister company called Mid South Institute, and that's over in Alabama or Mississippi or something. And they got their start actually from a guy named John Shaw, who was a world champion steel shooter. He did really well and won a couple championships back in the 80s and just killed it back then. Some special force groups contacted him and said, "Hey, we see you shoot good. Can you teach us shoot good?" And basically, it kind of snowballed from there, where he now has groups and groups and groups just coming out and meeting him and trying to learn how to shoot better. So there's a number of special forces groups that are uh, in the U.S. and also a shit ton from outside the U.S. who all come there as part of their workups when they're about to get deployed. They go to the Shaw Shooting or Mid South Institute to basically remember how to shoot guns again, and then it's just part of their workup before they get deployed. So once a year they do a open enrollment law enforcement class where basically they invite some local cops, or they tell, it's literally an invite only thing. Like, their website's password protected. You can't get into it. You can't even find out how much anything costs. You can't find out really a whole lot of anything. If you look around, you might be able to find some things, but it's a fairly insider location. Because every day basically they're booked with private military contracts. While I was there for 1 week, there were about 30 Coast Guard SF guys. It's MSRTC or
The ship
something.
interdiction guys.
Yeah, you know the video of the dude who jumped on the submarine and was knocking on it?
Yeah.
That's so
It's
badass. I
them.
love that.
It's them.
I believe I don't remember where I heard this, but I believe that they were the biggest contract for Glock 18s. Because you would imagine when you're boarding small ships and you're just like, man, this tiny submachine gun is just too big. What's that? All right, yeah, I can point that into a closet. Sure, I can do that.
But there were 30 of those guys there when we were there. The week prior, they had a bunch of Air Force guys. They had like 30 or 40 Air Force guys there. And then while my group, we had 6 or 7 cops, and then we had 2 SF guys from the Czech Republic and 3 Brits from a quote unquote company.
Task
And
Force
they could
141.
they couldn't say what company they were with,
Was anybody
but
named Soap?
right? No.
Damn it.
Two of them were like retired cops, and one was a retired or a former SAS guy. But they were with some undisclosed contract company. But it was just it was a wild situation because the amount of times I've been able to shoot with that type of group is very, very small. I've gotten to do it a handful of times, just with SWAT and random trainings, and just every once in a while you run into a special forces guy every once in a while, and I think we've all had that. But you just on that level, I've never seen anything like this. So how it's set up is there's an entire lodge there, like a world-class shooting lodge. Like, it's nicer than a hotel. It's way nicer than, it was insane how nice everything was. They provide food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it's good food, homemade food. And you're supposed to bring
John
obviously your
Shaw's in the
guns and
back.
ammo
He's
or
in the
whatever.
back.
He was there. He's old now. So his son is the one who runs the Idaho one, and then there's another guy who runs the Mid South Institute. But it was just it was wild. It was a very interesting time. How essentially the class was set up was day one, you run these quote unquote standards where they're called their operator standards drills, where this is what they think you should be able to do. And it wasn't anything like crazy. It wasn't um I didn't think it was hard, but it's all rifle and pistol. It's about working like, well, what's your rifle reload? Shot, reload, shot. What's your handgun reload? Shot, reload, shot. Pistol draw. It's not like they were hard things. I mean, we were at 5 yards for the majority of it, shooting at 2-inch circles or 4-inch circles. And so, like, the pistol draw was like 1.5 seconds to a 4 yard. To a 4-inch circle at 5 yards. Like, it's a very reasonable standard. I'm like, yeah, no, that's good. I think that's a good standard. I'd agree with that. And that was the kind of the fun thing about the classes. There was a lot of it was just like, yeah, no, this is the right way to do it. Huh, this is nice. It's nice seeing that these tip of the spear type guys are all getting the right training, which is good. But so day one's a bunch of paper, pistol, and paper standards, and then they just do a bunch of tests basically at day one, and then they go over how to shoot a pistol correctly. And again, all of it's pretty much the same stuff that I teach. It's all the same stuff that I think we all know how to do it, like the correct way to grip the gun, the correct way to stand, the correct way to do everything. The only real difference was they were much more interested in shot accountability and like getting the first shot hit, and they were very, very interested with pistols and getting that like 2-inch or a 4-inch hit. And they're like, yeah, well, like they cared about like the follow-up shots, but like we weren't doing a ton of build drills, we weren't doing recoil management stuff. It was more like transition from rifle and get that first round headshot. Because again, I think it's all about like, well, what is your clientele doing with pistols? And I think for military guys, it makes a whole lot of sense. Like if you ever have to transition to your pistol, you're fucked, and you really need to this one single shots for all the marbles. And so a lot of it, they did a bunch of Bianchi plate cup stuff at 10 yards, at 15 yards, and so that was fun. They didn't do anything at 25 yards with pistols, because I think the reason is because if you're at 25 yards shooting at someone with a pistol and you have a malfunction, I mean, the answer is go to your rifle. So it was just kind of an interesting, a different ideology, a different mind space. Because again, for us, most of us are in USPSA land or concealed carry or cop or whatever. Very, very different mindset than these military guys where everything's rifle, and their pistols, their sidearm, and everything's rifle.
Well,
so it's just different.
It's kind of interesting to me because I listened to that Larry Vickers interview on Sean Ryan a while back, and he said something, and then I listened to
that was a wild interview.
Yeah, and so what they brought up is like, especially with Delta or whatever, is how focused they were on accuracy. So then you think about the guys who train like Chuck Pressburg, very accuracy focused. Paul Howell over at CSTAT, very accuracy focused. T-Mac, Pat McNamara, very accuracy kind of focused. Like, and draw speed and all that stuff is good, but like, can you hold the black, shoot at 25 yards, shooting bullseyes? And that was the crazy thing, is like how much bullseye those guys would shoot. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly the absolute accountability for the rounds that you're doing, because the situation would be it's for all the marbles or the amount of conflicted area around you that you'd have to be shooting in would require a high demand for accuracy. And that's
did they put a time requirement on that one shot though? Yeah, because I think that's the other side of the coin, right? I mean, because you see people like accuracy is everything, and it is, but can you do it?
It has
quickly?
To be in a time constraint. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but that's the
and all the time restraints were all actually pretty good. Like they were all actually like, no, this is this is how fast you got to shoot. This is how fast you want to do this. It was a
Nice.
8-plate Bianchi plate rack, so it was 8 plates instead of the normal 6 you see. But like at 10 yards, I think the goal was to be under 5 seconds,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
The winners were like 4. But like I'll talk about this in a second. But that was day one. It was just all pistol fundamentals. It was all, high focus on accuracy. It was all about going over first gear is you see your sights, you feel your trigger, you feel the wall, you feel the slack. You're literally pressing 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pound, 5 pound, and then it breaks. You should feel all those things in your first gear. Your split should be about 1 second between each shot. And then they go second gear. Second gear is you still have your perfect sight picture. You still feel the wall of the pistol, but instead of going 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pound, 5 pound, now maybe it's 1 pound, 3 pound, 5 pound. And so your splits in that gear should be about a 0.8. And so they kind of just go through these different gears until you get to fifth gear or whatever, which is just your fingers out right here and you're just bang.
Yeah.
You're slapping the entire thing. And again, it's all about what your shot is required. If you're this far away from the person, you probably want to do a first gear shot if he's 50 yards away. If it's a hostage shot, you might want to do this or this or this. And so they talk about all these different ideologies. And it was just interesting. And again, it was a different mindset than most of what I've been taught my career.
Hey, so like that's very because the way I was taught, back in the day, that was the philosophy of it
Right.
was like Masada, crush hands, and then when he would talk about shooting, pulling the trigger, he would talk about so on there smooth roll through the trigger, like almost feeling how the trigger interacts and stacking up, and then firing with that first distal joint on there. And so like hearing that, it's just like it seems like nowadays like there's people who are maybe 35 30s 40s that kind of understand that principle of making those shots, like being the accuracy first guys who took USPSA, shooting accuracy first. And then there's the other generation now, which is like, give me a 2 pound trigger and something I can just slap manically through. And then you challenge them, with iron sights or something like that, or a service grade pistol at a zebra target at 15 yards, and it becomes a train wreck.
Mm-hmm. So it's just interesting. It wasn't the thing that I liked about it is a lot of times I go to police trainings or these type of trainings and there's a lot of wrong or there's a lot of incorrect or there's not that's not really the best way of doing it anymore. But I mean, the instructors were talking about Ben Stoker. The instructors were talking about all sorts of stuff. They were talking about USPSA. Like they talked about a lot of different things. One of the instructors, um, he's pretty good. I would guess he's probably a high A class shooter, maybe an M. I don't know. I'd have to look him up on USPSA. But one of them was good. Like it was fun to see that, and that was day one. Day two was interesting because it was the testing day. How their facility is set up is there are approximately, I'd say, 15 to 20 ranges all over this west side of this farm. Because it used to be just a duck club and a farm. These guys bought the range about 15 years ago or so. And then the farm's still there, the duck club's still there, but they've just created on this couple hundred acres this massive range facility. They're working on building a shoot house. They're doing all this stuff over there right now. But there's just a ton of these ranges that are all pneumatic steel. Every single range, basically, except for like 2 or 3 of them where they're the paper ranges. Everything's pneumatic steel where you shoot the steel, it goes down and it just resets. And they have these switches and levers over here that you can press. It resets all the steel. It was really cool. And so how it worked though is you'd go to the range and they say, okay, this is what we're trying out today. This is what you got to do. The time frame to beat, because they had these boards or what they were called. We have a board over here. if you can do this range in 19 seconds or less, you get to write your name and your unit on the board and your time. And it's like, oh, cool. How does that work? And you go and look at the board. And I'm not kidding you when it's like the best of the best are on there. You have gold team from the OG Seals with your gold, red, blue.
Yeah.
You have the HRT guys from all over the world. You have KSK. You have Grom. You have like all the fucking players that you can play as in Rainbow Six Siege, basically. Those units are
Wow.
up there. And it's really cool though to see and say, oh wow, these guys, wow, this big dick club came in here, and you can see SEAL Team 6. These guys were up there. They did this. SAS, SBS, people from all over the country were smoking some of these drills. And so I'm like, all right, that was honestly for me the kind of the coolest part of this venue was being able to go look at those boards. And it's cool because again, that's the handwriting of the guy who did it. This is my time. This is me. Stamp. And then you can say, okay, well, let's see what Jared can do it in. And then I shoot it, and I did it in like a 1750, which was a really good run. Like one of the instructors was like, God damn, that's the fastest one I've ever seen, and I've been here for 2 years. And I was like, yeah. I was all proud of myself. So I write my name down on the board, and I start looking around, like, yeah, all the recent ones were like in the 18s or whatever. And then I get back, some dude from like, what was it, like red team or something? They don't even say what unit. It just says red. And they did it in like 13 seconds.
Gosh dang.
Oh. And again, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because it's like, I know how fast Jared is.
Like, I feel like I'm
impressive.
moderately okay. And then there are dudes on there who are just taking their dick out and slapping me across the face. Because like it's nuts to see that. And it was actually kind of cool to see that, like, I know my caliber of shooting, and to see that there are guys at these events that are just absolutely destroying me is like, oh yeah, that's what I'd like to see. Because you always kind of hear about like, oh, the SEAL team, blah blah blah, or the 19th Special Forces Group, or these guys, they're super ninja squad, and they're the best. And then you meet one of them and you see them shoot, and you're just like, ah, that wasn't that impressive.
There's a couple guys out there who are in the unit,
Right.
to shoot, and are
Who are
like,
some god tier motherfuckers.
and who are just like, oh, and also like, because you hear about how much ammunition some of those units shoot, and like,
Right.
some guys shoot that ammunition, and like they're not gun guys, they stay qualified, and then there's some guys who go like, wait a second, you're gonna give me all the free ammo, and then I'm gonna sit here and shoot 1,000 rounds a day, and it's just like
They go full tism and just become killing machines.
Yeah.
And there's some of those in every single unit. And that was what was kind of fun to see, was like, there are a couple of the units that you're just like, oh, there's onesies and twosies. And then there's like 7 dudes. And you could tell it's like the same pin, the same day. Everybody wrote down their times. And it was funny just to see that. And so that was day 2. It was just all these different ranges going and testing and trying to hit this. And like, there were moving targets all over the place.
Yeah.
The hardest one for me with the handgun was actually, it was probably about a 15-yard stretch. There was a 8-inch plate about 10 yards away from you to your right. And then about every 2 or 3 yards, there was a little silhouette steel, probably about an 8x11 paper. And there were 7 of them. What you had to do is, as soon as the instructor started moving the steel across, you'd have to shoot the steel, and then hit the 7 silhouettes, and then hit the steel again before it got to the other side of the range. So it was about a 4 or 5 seconds. But the hard part, obviously, is you have a moving target, this, and then you have another moving target. Like, it's hard. But that was a lot of fun. But the really hard part was then, because that was the level 1 board over here, then they had the same range, but it was a different test. You had to shoot the steel, do a slide lock reload, then shoot the 7 silhouettes, and then hit the steel again. And I was just like, God damn, That is killer. And so it was funny because like the one board where it was just the mover, 7 steel mover, you had probably you know, 100 people. There were like multiple boards of that pass because they said, nope, you pass it, you just get to write your name on there. So there's a lot of names on that side. Whereas the steel reload steel thing, there were like 20 names on it. And this is for 15 years.
Yeah.
And then there was another one that was like, oh, you have to do it from the left side. You have to do mover, all, then mover. Then you have to immediately go to the right side and go mover, all right, mover. So basically, you have to do it left to right, right to left, back to back. And that one probably had about 30 names on it. I got on that one. And so it was just the reload one. It was hard because I wasn't shooting a fancy gun. I was shooting my duty Glock. Um, and so like it was rough, but it was a lot of fun. So there were all these different tests essentially. That was all Tuesday. And by Tuesday, my hands were bleeding. I had like, blisters and stuff because we probably shot about 2,000 rounds in 2 days. And so like my hands were
Wow.
all scuffed up and I'm like, oh God. So I'd like
this is one
Coban
of those
and wrap
things
them
that
all
like
up.
on day 1 or day 2 that you're going to be doing this for a few days is like you pre-tape. Like you
Uh-huh.
tape
That's what I
before
did.
you have the blisters.
I was taping the knuckles. I was taping all this stuff, and it was funny because the Czech guys were looking at me. They're like, "Why you do this?" I'm like, "Cause I'm a pussy," and they're like, "Yes." So that was funny. I learned a bunch of Czech swear words the whole week. Where apparently, like half of the Czech language is just the word picho, which apparently means fuck or fucking. And like it was great learning random Czech swear words, and that was all they did the whole time, which was like picho, 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 and you're just like, I know one word in your language, and that was half of what you just said. So it was hilarious. Those two dudes were absolutely a great time. Um, but they were in like I think they said like the 601st, but it was their Army Special Forces regiment, and it was cool shooting with them. They were really good. They were really good. But so that was day 2. Day 3 is then rifle and rifle paper, and we did some more rifle standards on paper, and that was all. Again, it's the same. It's nothing new there. It was
Yeah.
all kind of similar. And then day 4 was steel rifle, and that was all frangible rifle ammunition. It was all sorts of shit. That was when the ranges got really bananas because they had a range called Sicario, where it was probably, I sent you guys that video where it's like 20 cars and you have, like, I don't know, like 40 yards to the left, 40 yards to the right, like 60, 70 yards down.
Yeah.
And you work from car to car, and at each position on the car there's like certain targets you're supposed to hit, and all the pneumatic steel is labeled, and then there's like 5 moving targets that are just constantly going, and so you had to find them, hit them, then move to the next position, then do this, and you're doing all this while the guy next to you is doing the same thing. So it's kind of like a man on man competition, and it was insane. And then there were time frames on that you had to hit, and then there was another one on that same stage where behind those cars there's a 2-story facade where it's basically like a VTAC barricade from hell, and you work like
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the one you
The
posted.
Yeah.
That was like
20
that was just
slots.
all over the place.
yeah, and it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah, that was
up,
crazy.
up high, middle, crouching, prone, up high, middle, crouching, this, and then there was one you had to jump on a ladder and shoot down. And so like the board on that one the board time was like 2 minutes and 7 seconds. And like we had some of the cops in our class was doing it in like 4 or 5 minutes. 'Cause it's hard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was insane. So that was Thursday, and then Friday was kind of more of the same thing. Or Friday a lot of it was pistol and rifle where you do transitions, and then they had a couple ranges called the Coliseums, and they were just absolutely banana towns where you'd go in with an element of 2, 3, 4 people, and again everybody's loaded with frangible rounds. As you go in, the instructor kind of walks you through, and you're clearing. It's like you're in this gully, and all around you there are steel targets that are hidden, and they'll either be up already or they're just moving. They're sitting there, and so you're going, and then contact left, and you're shooting this guy. Well, this guy's over here shooting these other steel targets that are popped up, and then there are some targets that you're not supposed to shoot. There are some targets you are supposed to shoot. And then so it's just it was interesting because I got to go through one of the coliseums with the Czech special forces guys, and it was hilarious listening to them, like how they moved through. They were so insanely fast versus like I went once with just the cops, and we're going like back to back, like scooting down this
Yeah.
wide open hall and just like just ass scooting our way through here. And I'm like, this is familiar. I know this. And then the Czechs guys are like, okay, you go brave it, let's go. And they're just like sprinting around. I'm like, fuck, okay. And so it was a lot of fun shooting with them. And it was a very interesting experience. And so that was the whole week. There were 23 possible boards to get on, and I got on 14 of them.
Not bad, Joe.
And
Yeah.
so I got all the pistol ones. And so the pistol ones, you know me, pistol's kind of my game. Rifle, I just don't shoot rifle. I shoot rifle more than you guys. And like,
That was the funny thing. Like you in the chat, you had said, "Hey, I did this many things." I'm like, that's more than I've shot in the last 2 years.
Yeah,
Really,
that's
I mean,
Holy shit.
realistically, that's probably 5 years.
No, I mean, I shot 2,000 frangible 223 and probably about 1,000 ball 223. Like there were times where my gun was so hot that I couldn't hold it. Like on one of the Sicario runs, I'm shooting and I just had to let go of the gun and just like slap it on top of the car and shoot. Then I started shooting the car and I was like, fuck. So I had to pick it up again.
This was one of those. What was it, like the Ben Steger approach or the Matt Pronka approach? Is like you shoot one, it gets hot, you put that one down, you grab the other one, you keep practicing.
No,
with
if
that
you
one.
honestly, if I could have had two rifles, that would have been way better because they were getting so obscenely hot that like we poured some water on it and it literally like not just water on the suppressor and it disappeared. Water on the
Gas
like
port area.
foregrip.
Yeah.
Not even the gas port, just the entirety of the
The
rail.
actual rail.
You
Oh my
poured
gosh.
water on it and it just and it was hot as shit in Idaho, so it was like 100. It was 96 to 100 every single day. And so we were just melting. And then it was really funny because then you went back after a day of shooting, you went back, you got dinner, and then everyone got fucking wasted every single night. And then they went and did like all the coasties went and did karaoke one night. And it's this small town in the middle of Idaho, and they're all just kind of like, oh, it's you guys. And all these yoked out young dudes, and then like these random Europeans that are just like, hello, these are jean shorts, they're nice. And you're just like, what the hell? My favorite thing that happened actually was on the last day, the Czechs, they take this bottle out of their suitcase, and it's this clear, totally unmarked bottle, clear liquid, and it has saran wrap around the top, then duct tape, then saran wrap and duct tape. And they just look at us and they go, shots? And we're all like, bro, I don't know about that. Like, what is that? And they're like, it makes some people go blind, but they're pussies. And we're just laughing our asses off. We're just like, dude, I don't like, what is it though? And he's just like, it's goose clash. And we're like, I don't know what that is. And we're like, is it vodka? And they're like, no, it's made from goose clash. And we're like, that's not a word. That's not a word, man. And he's like, it's good. And we're just like, all right, fuck it. I guess we're gonna all go blind. And so we did shots with the Czechs of their moonshine. And it was oddly good. Very high proof, but oh man, it was just hilarious because these guys were just like, yes, you drink.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
It's what they need to rush into buildings doing Wild Rabbit CQB. It's like that's
Well, dude, they were so funny and like hanging out with them. Honestly, that was the funnest time of the whole thing. Was just like the shooting part was good and the shooting part was interesting and it was fun and it was unique and I absolutely would do it again. But the best part, honestly, was getting to hang out with people like that and getting to talk to them. The Brits were all very confused about our gun laws. And they're like, wait, so how many guns do you have? And you're like, I don't know. And they're just like, bloody hell, mate, that's crazy. Like, what do you mean you don't know how many guns you got? And it was hilarious. And then like I changed challenge coins and got a bunch of cool patches. And so the Czech dudes, I gave them a bunch of ammo because they ran out because they were shooting too much. And so they're like, you saved us because mission headquarters, they no give us more money to pay for ammo. So thank you. We could keep shooting because you. I'm like, it's okay. Tell Auntie Rosie thank you. And so it was just hilarious. And they gave me like a unit. I got a unit patch, a coin, and then they gave me a T-shirt. And so it's just cool. It was a very unique, very interesting experience.
So before we get into the listener questions, I got a couple questions for you. So handgun and rifle, but let's talk about the handgun first. From when you started the class, from when you ended the class, when you think about shooting a target, like did any of that process change for you? Like, or is there anything like that you remember as you going through of like grabbing the gun out of the holster, presenting the gun to the target? Like, what's the process? What are you seeing now after the end of the class? Which, like, what things
Really,
stick out to
so
you the most?
one of the things that I have actually changed is normally I think most competition shooters, how we work the trigger is you simply push all the way through, right? Whether you're slapping the trigger or you're just going an even motion throughout the trigger pull process. I don't really stack the trigger. I don't for Glocks. It's not like I didn't take the slack out. Well, I'd always have the slack out, honestly, but I would just pull the trigger, 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 pull the trigger. And most competition shooters and most competition shooting instruction is if your support hand is doing what it's supposed to do and applying 20, 30, 40, 100 pounds of support on the side of your gun, your trigger pull doesn't fucking matter because your support hand and your primary hand should have that in such a vice, your trigger really doesn't matter. As long as you're not anticipating and flinching with your forearms, then your trigger pull doesn't matter because it's support
Yeah.
hand and strong hand
If the grip's not changing
overcome
during
that.
the trigger press, then all things
Correct.
should stay the same.
And that's most of the time what I see in competition land is that's what everybody's kind of teaching now. Um, these guys really liked that. Like they talked about, good support, good strong hand pull, good control, but they really liked that 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pound, 5 pound, and being able to know your trigger press enough and to be say, okay, work and just dry fire with your trigger and see that. Find out what happens when you add 1 pound. What about 2? What about 3? Where does that feel? Okay. For my Glock trigger, 1 pound was basically negligible. 2 pound, you had a little bit of stacking. 3 pound, you had a little bit more stacking. And then you found the second wall for my Glock. Because there's almost like, there's the, like, when you touch the trigger and there's a little bit of slack take up, then you kind of find the quote unquote wall where you actually start taking poundage away from the trigger, right?
Yep.
So that 1, 2, 3 is there's a little bit of stacking, a little bit of squoosh there. Then at the 3 pounds, there's about another internal wall for my Glock where it's just the firing pin. You defeated all the safeties. Now it's just the sear breaking. And that's the 3, 4, 5, the 4 or 5 pounds. So what they talked about and what their big thing is like when you're combat shooting, instead of doing 1, 1, 5 and just going all the way through, what they like to do is one like touch, go find that internal wall. So find the 3 and then bang.
Yep.
And it's not like a pause. You're not going hook, bam, like 1, 3, 5. You should be just doing a briefest amount of feel the wall and then break it.
Yep.
And when you do that, it helped me be a lot more accurate. And like shooting the Bianchi Cup plate racks at 15 yards, that was how I was able to do that best. Doing the saying to myself, trigger wall, 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 wall,
Yep.
wall. that helped me a lot because, as Robert can attest, I'm not great at steel at 15 yards. He was there that one training day when I literally couldn't hit a steel plate. It was me, Robert, and Brett Thomas at 15 yards, and I straight up couldn't hit a plate. And they're like, "Are you retarded?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yes, clearly."
Well, and this
So that was the biggest change I did.
and so
That's good though. I mean, that's a really good that's a good like knowledge point, right? Like, oh, this is
Well,
how to solve that. That's pretty cool.
and for me, I've always struggled with the long distance accuracy. I mean, I can spaz out at anything up close and just burn it the fuck down. But for me, like that's why I've been working so hard on those B8s at 25 yards. Um, that helped me a lot. And doing this wall thing would help quite a bit at B8s at 25 yards. There would the hard targets, the low percentage shots, whatever you want to call them. These are the difficult ones, and this is what I have to get better at. So I can confidently say, like, I actually learned something at this class, and for pistol stuff, I learned something, and I got better with my pistol, which is, again, for me, it's saying something.
so
Yeah.
visually with the dot, was there more emphasis on centering the dot exactly where you wanted it while manipulating the trigger?
Nope, they didn't talk about that once. All they cared about was you put the dot on the target, you look at the target. They occluded everybody's optic on day one and said, "This is how you shoot."
And then the emphasis is on the trigger.
Yep, that was just it.
Yep.
Like honestly, the majority of their ideology was based on trigger press
That's
because their whole
That's
thing,
wow.
they talked about it and they're like, "Okay, guys, let's go over what do you guys think goes into the accuracy of you shooting?" Guys were talking about grip, stance, trigger press, sights, breathing, all this stuff. And they broke it down and broke it down and broke it down until it really comes down to there's only two things that change where the bullet goes: the sights and whether or not you move the trigger while those sights are on the thing.
Sure.
And he's like, everything else can help this. He's like, but honestly, like the big thing there is sights and trigger press are the only things that matter. And again, you have to go at it, look at it. What's their worldview? What are they doing? And it's very much that highly accuracy and the consequences of bad accuracy. And so their whole thing is like, we know our bad guys will be shooting at us, and we are hoping that they will miss because there's not really anything you can do about that. You hope that your equipment can stop the bullet that might hit you, but the only thing you can really do to get the odds in your favor is to be more accurate and more faster than they are.
Yep.
And so that was their whole thing. First round shots, first round hits win every single time. And so all the boards, all the fancy like times and everything, essentially it was you had to shoot it clean. They never said like you had to, but if you didn't shoot it clean, you weren't going to make it on the board. You had to shoot that shit pretty much perfectly.
Yep. And
But
then
it was wild.
for the rifle.
For a rifle, honestly, it actually kind of surprised me. The rifle day, I don't know if it was I started to get tired or if I just started to get like zonked out because this was day 3 and again we've been out in like 95-degree weathers all day and I was just starting to get freaking tired and I started to get just a little inattentive. And rifle was good. I didn't really change anything with rifle. We just I just shot stuff and it was funny because they're like, "Yeah, you're fine." And then they went over and were working with the more problem students because that was one of our problems with our class was we had like me, another Salt Lake cop, and then the Czech guys were on the left side of the range and we were all doing pretty well. And then the two old British cops, they were struggling a little bit just because he's like, "Dude, we haven't shot. Like, we don't have guns." Especially
Right.
now that we're private citizens, like we don't have access to anything. I can't even dry fire. I don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Last time I shot was in April. Well, the last time I was here, and so they're trying to get better. And so they were trying to remember how to shoot. And then we had 2 cops from Washington that were just not great, and they were struggling. And so most of the time they were trying to help those guys down there, while us and the Czech boys just started fucking off, and I learned a bunch of Czech swear words.
And they shot too much.
Yes, and then
Awesome.
they shot too much.
You guys know the sponsors are in the link. We're kind of pressed for time, so I'm going to have Robert go ahead and hit the questions from Telegram. Download the app Telegram, search PARAcast, you'll find us there.
Handful of questions that are all just for you, Jared. But Jared, do you have to be a person that wears blue? Do you have to be law enforcement to shoot that to do that class? It looked fun.
No. But you do have to know someone. It's like I said, it's not necessarily invite only, but it is kind of invite only. I've actually was talking to them. We're looking at trying to do I'd like to bring like a Salt Lake contingent up there. I was actually talking about it. I'm like, I don't even really want to do the training day. I don't really want to have like 1 day of pistol paper, 1 day of rifle paper. I would rather just do let's just go up there and everyone's just going to shoot the steel stages because the steel's so insane. And that's what I think everybody wants to do is the steel. And so they do contract classes and they're like, no, we can do anything you want. It's just a question of payment and time and if we have it available. Yeah. And he said the big problem is right now, he said there are 52 weeks in a year, and every single week we are booked with military contracts. Every single week.
That's a good problem to have. Holy smokes.
Yeah, well, the facility they have is millions and millions and millions of dollars. I got lucky, and the owner of the place, John, he took me and the Brits on a tour of his house and was just showing us stuff around, and it was probably like the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. He showed us his gun room, and he personally owns probably, I literally don't know how many things. It was cooler than any gun museum I've ever seen. Like, he had belt-fed machine guns.
Ooh.
Like, plural. I don't know how many machine guns were there, and I was like, John, you know that this room's worth more than like the whole house. And he goes, hey. And I'm just like, this is insane. And he's just like, yeah, it's pretty nice. And then he comes over, and there's all these like awards and thank yous and plaques from, again, DevGru, CAG, all the coolest tip of the spear guys you can imagine. And there's this rug on the wall with 2 Car 98s next to it. And then it had like what was it? Delta, this little Delta plaque in front of it. And I'm like, what is this? And he goes, oh man, that's cool. That's a cool story. It's some Delta boys. They go down over there to Saddam Palace. They brought me this rug. And then these two rifles were for some Taliban leaders that they killed. I go, what? He's like, yeah, this rug's from Saddam's palace. What do you mean? Like, this is just from Saddam's palace? And he goes, yeah.
My brother has something from Saddam's palace. He was in Saddam's palace in 2003 when they went through.
Yeah, so apparently we just looted the fuck out of it. I've heard that. But he was talking, he had all these things that like all these warriors, we'll call it, have gone all over the world and used his teachings. So if anybody in the world has the most assist kills that I know of, it's probably this motherfucker. Like, he just has points, awesome. Just points. He can call in kill streaks for days just off the points from that, because it's just like, oh man. He had all this stuff. He's like, yeah, this was a Taliban leader. He tried to shoot one of my guys, and the guy said it felt like a flamethrower flying past his face. This bullet flew past his face, and then he shot him. And took his rifle, and then this is that rifle, and he's like, it's still got the brass in it, and like he's all these things like from Somalia, Black Hawk Down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bunch of war shit from there, and they're just like, yeah, this is the ammo bandolier that they took off one of the guys they killed over there. It's still got his blood on it. And that's just on display in one of the rooms, and it's just like, it It was absolutely mental.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
it was a hell of a experience, and I don't know. I'm gonna talk to them more. They talked to me a bit, and we're gonna have some of them come out to the cop shoot this upcoming month, and they're saying they want to give out some more certificates. They want to get some Utah cop contingent up there, and they're just like, yeah, you guys are good shooters, so we want you guys to come up here and
Be
throw some
gooder.
times.
Awesome.
Yeah, throw some times down on these boards and make these Delta boys feel bad about themselves. And I was like, I can fucking do that. And so it was an absolutely wild experience. And if we do anything, I'll let the local guys know, and we got to figure this out. It's expensive though. Like obviously it's not a cheap experience.
Well,
Yep.
just the round count alone is
Yeah,
expensive.
just the rounds is expensive as hell. And then on top of that, I think the registration for a 5-day class was $1,500. This is $300 a day, which really honestly
Not
isn't
bad.
that
Which
bad.
that's actually not bad at all,
Not bad.
dude. I mean, if you think
And
about it,
then
that's not
the
bad.
the lodging, again, they do on-site lodging, on-site food, and the food was great. We had like smoked ribs one night, we had tri-tip one night, lasagna one night. Like it was actually really good food. And I think food and lodging for all five, and then 6 days because I ate on Sunday night I got there, and then Saturday when I left, and I think that was like a thousand bucks or so, a little less than that, because 5 6 days of lodging and then 5 6 days of food. Also, there was an infinite amount of alcohol on site, and it was all open bar, and so it was just funny. Like all of it was free, and then they have like all these lakes and ponds behind the houses, and they're like, it's all stocked. You can fish anything you want. You can do whatever. There was it was honest to God like a world class 5-star facility,
Yeah.
and I've never seen a facility like that at a shooting event. Because I was expecting almost like a barracks type thing, but no, the lodges, like all the rooms had, there were 2 beds in each room, and then some of the bedrooms had their own bathroom, but some of the bedrooms didn't. You just had like, and in the west wing of the house, there were 10 bedrooms and probably like 3 or 4 bathrooms. I don't know. And so it just kind of depended on where you got situated. And then there was a guest house also. Then there was this house, and then there was another house, and depending on where you were. And so it was very interesting.
That's awesome. A couple last questions, then we'll get on out of here.
From Kevin Isaac. Jared, how good is brass as a gravel replacement?
Fantastic. You know it's good when you look down and the brass is pointing up at you. That's 223 brass, and it's pointing up at you, and you're like, oh, this is deep.
From Moisha, talk about the department issued rifles you've seen, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, those are all awful. Like, the best department rifles I've seen, I got to help pick out. Um, the last department I worked for, they were looking at replacing some of their SWAT rifles, and I helped them. And we picked up the Psionics 11.5 reduced gas port SBRs, and they were really, really nice. They came with a nickel boron BCG nickel boron like trigger group and everything. So they're actually halfway decent triggers. Great. That's probably the best duty rifle
At
I've
the
seen.
class, what were the rifles at the class?
At the class, everybody kind of had their own setups. All the Coast Guard guys all had the Geisley.
Super
What are they
duties
called?
or
Yeah,
URGIs?
they're URGIs. They're all 11.5s. Everybody had 11.5s, and nobody was running their shit suppressed except like everybody had the suppressor mounts.
Yeah.
Um, but nobody was running it suppressed just because it was too dirty. I was a fool, and I ran mine suppressed the entire time. One, because I'm a gentleman, and two, because I have it slightly um, embedded, so the muzzle breaks just a skosh into where my handguard is. So I can run it unsuppressed, but it's not cash money. And so I'd rather just run it suppressed, and I built it and tuned it out so it's perfect. And so like it was fine. It just got a lot hotter and a lot dirtier than some of the other guys.
Yeah.
Um, but everybody had those URGIs. The Coast Guard guys had that. The Brits and the Czechs borrowed rifles from the location because they had just piles of rifles and pistols that they can loan out because obviously some of the foreign groups who come
Yeah.
over, they might not have they brought all their own kit, but they didn't bring the guns. And so
Right.
they're like, yeah, we'll just provide the guns. And so they're all Glocks. Everybody just had Glock pistols. There was one Fed dude who was he had a SIG P229. Talking to him was interesting because he was a diplomatic security guy for a while, like the Benghazi people.
Hmm.
Oh,
And I talked to him about that for quite a bit, and he was talking about how insane it was. And he's like, dude, it was just it's a nuts job. And he talked about that we talked for quite a bit about what he thought about the whole 13 hours Benghazi thing, and he actually just missed it. He was in, you know how in the movie the nearest base to Benghazi was Tripoli?
Yeah.
That's where he was. He was actually in Tripoli, and he left right before Benghazi happened. And so he's like, I just barely missed it. And I'm like, that's fucking crazy.
right.
But he was telling all these stories about how, oh yeah, I've gotten to do all sorts of stuff, flying around in Blackhawks with SEALs and with MARSOC, with these guys, with these guys. I had my own saw, my own grenade launcher. I was like, it was a crazy job. I'm like, yeah, dude, it sounds crazy. But pretty much everybody there had just basic bitch Colts or, you know, some sort of variant.
Yeah.
They're not nothing crazy fancy. The Washington guys had Rainier Arms, and because it's a local
Yeah.
company up there, and so they had these dead air cans on their rifles that were loud as shit, and then they wouldn't work with the frangible ammo, and so they had to take them
Dude,
off, and they
does
couldn't even figure
frangible
out.
not work with suppressors? Is that a
It's
thing? I
just
don't know.
it's dirty, and so it's
Uh-huh.
more backsplash, and so I think what actually was happening was the back pressure was too much,
Okay.
and so they had to change some of their setup, and then their rifles were running fine. I didn't have to change mine. The Silencer Co. Velos worked great. I ran the frangible through it the whole week, didn't have a single issue, no keyholing, no nothing. And it talked quite a bit about that on the primary and secondary group. I was trying to find out if I could shoot frange through a suppressor, and basically everybody said no. And then I called Silencer Co. and Silencer Co. was like, fuck it, you'll be fine. And then when I showed up to the location's like, yeah, everybody runs frange through suppressed. It's fine.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, well there you go.
That works.
I didn't have any
Interesting.
issues.
Any other questions?
Just really
Robert?
dirty.
No, that's really it.
Well, awesome. That's I'd like to thank Jared for coming on and sharing what he did at summer school. That's pretty awesome. And yeah, that was a fun time. And some of the videos, Jared can move them over to the chat, the PARAcast chat, if you would so pleases. Anyways, thanks for listening, downloading, subscribing, guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you for all you do, and for Robert Wired and Jared Stepp. I'm Tom Nelson. Bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the Sea of Life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
All right, everybody.
Doot doot.